fellow duelists. We are More Mana Gaming's Vinny Silverman and Phil Pena. And today, we are going to talk about all of the cards that are coming out between the championship in Texas and the one in February in Las Vegas. So that's all of expansion set 3 and some promos that are going to be legal. And we're just going to talk through our opinions of them and how good we think they are, how we think they're going to impact the meta, and if we're going to be playing them in our decks. So I guess we'll start with Yuri, the Dire Wolf of the Garden. So, alright, 4-drop legendary roller. If you kill an opponent's tower, search your deck or discard zone for the sword and equip it to this card. So I guess we have to also look at the sword, which is 4 mana, also legendary. It's a gear, which matters. Equipped to unit, gets plus 500. When it kills something in battle, gets 2 counters, and you can remove a counter to deal 1,000 to something, and 2 counters to deal 1,000 to a tower. So, I like the sword a lot.
Yeah.
In Liam.
Yeah, so I think Yuri is meant to be like a mid-rangey card. I don't think it really has a place with the meta, because I think what we're seeing the meta transition to be is either you have a hyper-aggressive deck with the Liam M002 variants,
Yeah.
and you have a deck that controls that specific playstyle with the Liam Sola. And then everything in between sort of tries to battle both ends of the spectrum. But they're not necessarily mid-range decks, because the Jamal deck is not necessarily a control deck. It's more of just if I can limit what you do, I can win the game, a long way. Like I think we see the control deck by I forget his last name, but Dennis from Orlando's championship.
Yeah, the Jillian deck.
Yeah,
that's
a control deck. But the one that Colin and friends has been piloting is more of a controlling deck, but it's not a control deck.
Yeah, it's just like a mid-range deck.
Yeah, it's more mid-range, but I'm sorry?
I said I'm thinking just about the card style. I think it's all right against like the blue deck.
Yeah, but the thing is, I just don't think it has a place in either of those decks, and doesn't really help you battle either of those decks. Like, I guess against the blue deck, it lets you attack their little 1-drops, which makes their elephant a lot worse. But
yeah.
4 mana is a lot for that.
It's really good with the hammer.
Yeah. So that being said, if you wanted to scale up your Liam deck, but again, let's say you have a War Room on 2 and you only have 1 War Room, then you're paying 5 mana for that, and if they have a bounce spell, it kind of makes you look dumb. And there's plenty of them.
That's true.
So
I like bouncing the Yuri though. If you play like Liam Kite, you can Guiding Winds it back for more value.
Yeah, but then you're losing your hammer, and then you're gonna have to War Room your hammer back, and you lost your War Room, because the decks don't play more than 1 hammer, if they even play hammer now. I know we played hammer for the championship. I don't know if any other deck followed suit. So I think this is sort of a dud on what's currently going on.
Yeah.
But I think it's something to look to in the future, because I do like the equip spell. I think it has in more of these mid-range or grind-up matchups, definitely has a lot of application. So it's
I think the equip spell is just going in my Liam Kite deck.
Yeah.
Because that sounds great. You just search it, you discard it.
I wish it's
you
more of
that's
great.
Like
a magic thing where your equip cards kind of stay, because you also need a creature that can't die to removal, and it's hard to find somewhere that fits, right? I guess because Liam has so many cards that want to be hit by removal, because all their creatures are pretty good, you won't have a hard time fitting this on somewhere that becomes like a lightning rod for removal, and you get to rock with your other guys. But every deck doesn't have stuff like that, so it's kind of hard to balance that out.
You can War Room. I like War Room for this as a combat trick. Like if they're trading exactly into your guy, you can War Room for the sword, and then you kill their guy, you get the counters, and then if they try to remove your guy, you 2 for 1 of them.
That's kind of long. So I guess Yuri's kind of a dud, but the Greatsword definitely has a lot of potential in the current meta, and
I think if the Liam deck slowed down, it would want Yuri. Maybe if there's a Liam Fizzy deck,
that
tries to
maybe
be more advantage based.
Maybe an Orin deck, maybe even a deck that tries to lead to Iskandar. because
Yeah,
you can play a lot of equips and like one of the old Orin Fizzy decks where you just kind of turbo out Iskandar. Might want to
yeah,
play something like that. So that's going to be interesting to see if that like resurfaces for these cards.
yeah. Maybe also like you side it because if you need to scale up your deck, this like if you're a Liam deck that's already playing the equip spell, this might be
Yeah, I
just
mean,
like
you would just have to test the matchup to see how applicable it is, but it does
yeah,
sound like a good way to combat like trying to fight for the board, trying to keep guys the elephant because if you're able to brawl over something next turn, get this that might shoot a guy down as well, and you're ahead on such a like wide scale that it's
yeah,
kind of insane. Also, it lets you play into the Dark Tower, which has been one of the hardest towers to actually play into, right? Because it like yeah, they take a card from your hand, but you're sort of getting another card with the Greatsword and the Liam effect as well. So you kind of get to replace those effects and really sort of keep that tempo advantage from hitting the Dark Tower. With if you're playing Yuri specifically, so that's not that bad.
yeah. I mean, I hadn't realized this, but if you are playing like let's say you're playing the Liam Mirror and they tap out, like obviously they have to kind of be tapped out for this card to work. But if you have a creature that sticks and you just blind like crack a tower and then play this, it cleans up their board pretty nice because it like attacks over mutation, and then you get 2 counters on the equip spell, and then it deals 1,000 to 2 things. So it
Yeah,
like
yeah. I mean, it's not bad. I
cleans
mean,
up
like
3 guys, and then you
if
keep the
you if
body.
you're able to get 5 attackers by turn 4, which is I mean easy if you start with a mutation. Even if you have a mutation on 3, let's say you go gift for mutation on 2 and then play mutation on 3. I'm pretty sure with your 4 attacks, you're going to attack a tower,
Right. Yeah.
a
So
fire, a wind.
when like both people are playing, I feel like this is something that one person can have that'll just like steal the game.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's true. In those specific instances, yeah. But without like mutation is such a crazy card, and you need that in order to facilitate
Yeah.
this card.
Yeah.
And like that's just a wild sentence, right? Like I need this busted card to make this card playable. Like that,
Right.
it's
Yep.
something I don't want to look for in my decks.
Yeah. Um. So the Matron of Miracles. Spell any number of gears from your discard zone. Target unit control cost X or less cannot be targeted by spells or abilities this turn. If it's exhausted, recover it. And X is the total cost of gears you spell. So I think this is mostly going to be used for like X equals 0, and then you just untap mutation tokens. So I think it's going to be good in the Liam kite deck. I don't know if you can do
Me
anything else with
just
it.
like yeah, there's that. I guess maybe you can remove 1 gear and then like let's say what's the girl who searches units? You can like search you can put a counter on it and
Charisse.
then remove yeah, you can use one you can summon it, remove 1 gear, uh restand her, right? Or does it have to be yellow?
No,
No,
you can do
target
anything.
unit. Yeah, you can restand her and then get your search on for whatever other unit, but that's a lot of mana, right? You
Yeah,
can create three.
that doesn't sound
And then
great.
yeah. I'm just trying to think like what other synergies. For me, this feels like another dud. I feel like this is some effect you want on a spell, more than a unit, but that I guess that would just make it more and more powerful. If you took like, I think this would be a great 3 mana card. If it was I mean, 3 mana card is really expensive, but if it was a spell without the unexhaust part, I think it would be a great spell, like a 2 mana spell that
Hmm.
seems really powerful to protect your
Oh,
things.
I know what I like this in. I like this in Helena Sola. That looks great
Yeah, yeah.
because
Restand the solo token. That's
yeah, the Soul token and the Golem token.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just like
I could see that.
randomly gives all your golems hexproof, and then
Yeah,
you get
but
to attack with them again.
in the
So
art
that
section,
sounds
which
great.
like I think it was designed for, you probably don't want to play something like this. I mean, it just seemed like the super what is it? The Titan Guardians, the 5-drop yellow one that came from the structure deck is
Oh
just like
yeah,
a pumped up version of this for 5 mana. You get 2 light units restanded, and then the protection effect is a sorcery speed spell C1, so your opponent can just interact with it, and then you
no,
just remove
it's not.
gears.
You can do it at instant speed.
Oh, is it instant speed? It does when it's summoned. I'm sorry, I
No,
didn't
no,
even
no.
do the
It's
cover.
just
Okay, I mean, yeah, it gets a little more playability. Just feels weird to do something like this. Now that it's not instant speed, I mean, now that it is instant speed, it looks a lot better to me. But
yeah, because it also makes it not once per turn. So it's your
Yeah,
whole team
I just
if
feel
you're
like
going aggressive.
it's hard. So you definitely want Iskandar in any yellow deck. Obviously, like yellow base, um, which is where you're gonna get most of the gears from. So, and you want to play War Room, so it seems hard to like mitigate losing power for War Room to try to keep a unit alive. I mean, like if it's your only unit, because I know Liam doesn't run too many creatures, seems fine. But I don't know if I'd even want to put a slot in this deck. I think it's maybe a one of in most decks, unless like there's some sort of combo with it or something. But
I kind of want to try that Hawaiian solo thing. Now that I
yeah,
think about it, that sounds like strong, especially because I want to try that deck out anyway.
that's
Uh,
fair.
this seems like it might, because like they're not. So you had Lab to interact with, to like get value off of them interacting with your golems, but now it is also your solo tokens, and a big part of that deck was like Eccentric Visitor, make a bunch of solo tokens, make a bunch of like Light Tower tokens, and this protects those too. So that seems pretty good. Uh,
Yeah, I mean,
Three
and
drop is good for Yami also. I don't know how
yeah,
you're getting this in the
and any
graveyard, but
any token based strategy is going to be kind of insane, right? But the problem is the real problem you have there is the towers. The towers kind of interact really well with cards like this. So
yep, very true.
um,
Sometimes you get lucky
if you're
though.
yeah, I mean, but are you playing cards just to get lucky?
Oh yeah,
Okay, so then yeah. I mean that's perfect, right? Vegas coming up, need to be
yeah.
real lucky. Makes sense. So yeah, let's play three of this in every deck we play.
Okay. Um. So next card. So now, just to make sure I'm following you, I'm on the next row
Oh,
of
okay,
cards.
I just want to talk about the title rush real quick.
Oh, okay.
Is that somebody's just are those just two severed heads? Just like I've never seen that before, and that looks pretty cool. But are those just two like severed heads?
Well, I guess maybe they're
Okay,
attached to people
yeah,
that
like
are off the frame, like they're inside that wave or something.
oh, that's fair. Okay, I just thought like she was just like letting like I don't know what that has to do with the card. Just two severed heads letting them go. All right, whatever. Next card. What do
Uh,
we have? Tempest Punch, right? That's where we're at.
yeah. So it's an instant for 1 mana. Target attacking unit you control gets plus 2,000 and return to its owner's hand at the end of the turn. And if a champion has Ariana in its name, that unit also cannot be targeted by your opponent's spells or abilities this turn. So, if you're an aggressive Ariana deck, the best case scenario for this card, right? This seems pretty good. Like in that deck.
Yeah, so Ariana is probably one of the worst, if not the actual worst,
Yeah. It's
champion.
it's like
So
merits are cards that specifically help that, which is there's this card and there's one other card that we're gonna get to.
okay, yeah, I haven't seen these cards, so yeah, I mean, like, it seems like a good way to push the Ariana. Definitely, green was lacking some form of creature protection. It was really like more so if you're like to mitigate that, you'd want to play the other green leader, Ethan, just so that you could, in a sense, just bounce cards and keep your protection by actually keeping the equity on the board with um, different creatures on the board from your hand. So this pushing Ariana doesn't seem like a bad card. It also seems like a pretty good card. I don't know if I'd play in any other green deck that's not Ariana, but and the attacking
Yeah, I mean
2,000
plus two
seems like
thousand seem I mean red has that for
yeah. Also, it doesn't seem like something Green wants to do with the attack boost, but I guess it is good so that your little guys can either crack towers or maybe get over potential blockers. But I don't know if the format plays too many blockers that I have a hard time getting over. I don't think there's any big. I
also
guess
for you to really get value out of the hexproof thing, you have to like be attacking with something and then they kill it with a removal spell, but then if they're using a removal spell on it, the power probably doesn't matter because it means your attack is going through on a tower most likely. So it seems very unlikely to me that both halves of the card actually get their
yeah,
value worth.
that's another thing I was going to say. I don't think this card has a lot of application right now. Like I said, the plus 2,000 isn't really relevant. Your little guys cracking towers, even the bigger towers aren't really a problem because you flood the board with little guys. You have the recruiter, which gets more of itself, and the other little ones you want to kind of just use to float themselves. So you have multiple little ones, so the extra 2,000 doesn't really matter, and the protection effect would matter, but they don't want to interact with your little guys, so you don't really need protection against the big ones because there's not a lot of hard removal outside of black, and black
Yeah,
is I guess it would probably be the lowest of the big three decks right now. And I don't
Styrian,
know
yeah.
if they made deck Soul Transfer anyway, so
Nah, it's just kind of an awkward thing because you want to, the first half you want to use makes it so you want to use it on a small unit, but the second half makes it so you want to use it on like a big unit, something that they would remove. And once you make your guy into a threat, then they can't use their removal on it. So
yeah, I
you're not
mean,
gonna like get them on a trick or something.
yeah, yeah, I could see it if you were splashing green for like the bounce spells and like Vavriel's Gift, and
Yeah,
now your other green spells are just like spells to interact with, like the other player. But right now, I don't think this card has a great place in the meta,
now if it
and
was
it's definitely
blocking unit, that sounds
yeah, yeah,
fire.
yeah. That does
But
sound actually really good because then they probably have to interact if you have a bigger
yeah,
blocker.
they like kite your guy, and you're like in response,
Yeah.
I'll make it bigger than your guy and negate your effect, and then I two for one you every time.
Yep. Sounds great.
Maybe
But
they
right,
just forgot to put that
yeah, maybe just a
on.
card to watch in the future. But right
Yeah,
now, I don't.
I can see a deck where this card is definitely good, but
Yeah,
that deck
like
is
right
like,
now, I can put together a skeleton of cards that don't exist that would like
yeah,
be pretty good with this. Just like generic cards, not like overly powerful cards that would just be would want something like this, especially in an Ariana deck where she can kind of lock down your spirit with
the amulet. Yeah,
amulet, and she can kind of flood the board with the pandas if you do either one of those. So, yeah, definitely something to keep in the back of your mind whenever you're building a green deck.
um, Shard Spider. Uh, you have more destroyed towers than your opponent, and they control more units than you. This card costs 3 less to play, so it costs 0. And arrive, exhaust unit your opponent controls. It does not recover during opponent's next charge phase. I like this a lot, just as a
I
generic card.
agree. If it's free, it is often for me, and this sounds like it is zero mana when you want to play it. Um, that being said, outside of its first turn, it has little playability, which kind of just scares
Yeah,
me a
it
little
just
bit.
gives
But
you a guy. So thinking this seems good in creature based like zoo type decks where
yeah, I mean, so for one, based on what's happening right now in Argent, I think this
yeah.
is really good versus the blue deck, right? They
Oh yeah.
spam the board with the
You
tokens, with the witch who gets the book, um, and
you
the
just tap down their
seers.
guy and
Yeah, just tap down their guys, stop the aggression, stop them from checking towers, and then when you're ready, you can swing into them. And you do it all for free, which is really, really nice.
yeah.
And then against Liam, I guess you can sort of stymie the bleeding, because they're gonna obviously crack more towers than you within the first couple turns, especially if you're not playing a mirror. Or even if you're playing a mirror and you don't open O2, your opponent's gonna obviously crack a bunch of towers and have way more creatures. And even if they don't open O2 and they open like just like the Squire, or let's say if they play Raging Shard Beast and um, they crack a tower, now you can sort of stymie that bleeding effectively, right? Because they have their one attacker and they haven't been able to equip yet, and then you just answer with this on turn one, turn two, so on and so forth. So it seems like a really, really good card in the meta right now. My only worry is that like after you play it, there's nothing really to do. But I guess if you're using blue yourself, you can bounce it to set up more plays later, which is really, really strong. And it always has functionality throughout the whole game, right? Let's say you're playing blue yellow and you use the finishing ray. Now you only reset the board, and now if you were behind on towers, you're always going to be behind on towers. So now your opponent has to be worried whenever they play a guy that it might just be attacked. Like you do this, you follow up with a Giganth, or you do this and you follow up with a Kara or something like that. You can
Yeah,
definitely.
it adds. So I'm thinking about this Hawaiian solo deck that's being put together in my brain, and uh, this just seems like another high tempo card that you can add to a deck that like wants your towers broken already.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely facilitates all the Omega matches, right? You can
Yeah,
kind of let them attack you, and then
it turns into
um,
one really big swing turn.
yeah, I do like this card. I don't know if it's a three of, but I certainly like this card in some amount of numbers, and I can see it have playability in most decks. Liam's often missing an attacker. And if you get to play this attacker for free to sort of like have your kill turn, where you just kind of suit up your every attack, you search a quickness gear and you shoot them up. If you get to play this guy for free, that's kind of insane, right? Like,
Yeah.
so definitely a strong card. I imagine this card stands the test of time for a couple of sets and is going to be somewhat relevant in the meta because it's a free card and like it's one of the first free cards we've seen.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how it develops in our meta, whether it's a sideboard card or main deck card. I think it's going to have some shakeup on the meta and definitely be in top tier decks going forward.
That's one to look out for.
Yeah.
Next is Shadow Liger. Black 1-drop whenever it's attacked, or when it attacks, you mill 2. So the best comparison that I can make with this card is to Shrieker.
Yeah.
But they're also fundamental because they're both 1-drops that mill, but they're also
Yeah.
fundamentally different because this one
So
wants
off
to
the bat, I think
mill
it's
more.
just a strictly worse Shrieker.
That's basically where I'm getting at. Is because I feel like this card has the potential to mill more, right? Like in the best case scenario, I think you play it on 1, and then the next turn you attack with it, mill 2, you hit a tower that does not kill it, which usually means you just missed the fire or wind tower, so that's not great already. And then they attack it on the crackback, which usually means they're doing a value attack. And then you mill 4 instead of 3. But like the reason why Shrieker is good in Urgon is because you get the mill immediately, and then you can throw the Shrieker away and
that was the
do
thing
something
I was going to bring up after you had finished your thought. I was going to bring up the fact that because of the main graveyard hate being Scavenger, you need to overload that card if you go with a graveyard strategy, especially because Scavenger is actually a main deckable card. And then, as we've seen throughout the last 2 championships, it's actually a pretty good main deckable card in a lot of the top tier decks and a lot of decks that make the top cut, whether main deck or sideboard, it's still there.
Yeah.
So you need to overload that card. And if you're only milling 2, even if you like mill 2 on your turn, 2 on their turn, your opponent can actually like handle that. And the thing about it is when you overload it, you need to mill as much as possible. So you play a couple Shriekers, or you play like if you play a couple Shriekers, you can maybe like Urgon effect, or maybe a Hoenn effect, or even Yami. Like overload the Scavenger from actually having a crazy effect on game. But if you play a couple Ligers, now you're down.
That takes a while.
Like, like so let's say you play 2 Ligers and two Shriekers. 2 Shriekers is 6 cards, 2 Ligers is 4 cards. But you have to attack. So like your opponent can see it coming, right? They just play it. Like, the only deck I think this would be good in is not even Urgon. I think it's just Hoenn, because, like, all the black cards kind of want graveyard synergies, and Hoenn doesn't have her innate mill cards outside of Shrieker. So I think this card would have been better suited as a Golem, just so that you can have this way to facilitate your graveyard. But I don't think it's he's playing Urgon. Unless you're looking for an aggressive Urgon strategy where Hoenn just brings back attackers to attack. You trade out your 1-drops for more 1-drops to keep attacking. Then I can see a deck like a card like this being playable. But I really think this should have had the Golem tag on it if they wanted to actually make it see play.
Yeah, I think it's just a little too slow to be good as a mill card, and I think it's like if you want to use it as an aggressive card, there's just better 1-drops. Like you could be playing Shrieker or Bone Scavenger, and those are probably going to be better. So it would have to be in a strategy where you're doing both.
Yeah, there could be a deck like where you just use, Hoenn, the Immortal Conjurer, just to like swap out 1-drops, right? They kill a 1-drop, all right, get another 1-drop back. Kill a 1-drop, all right, you get a 1-drop out. While at the same time you just facilitate your graveyard just so that like maybe eventually you'll stack up into like maybe a 3-drop or a 4-drop or a 5-drop. One of the other cards that interact like with your opponent's board favorably. Right. And then because it's a 1-drop and you set up a couple 1-drops, maybe you have Elephant in a deck like this where you can make a big attack, right? You keep milling, you mill some Obsidian Gargoyles, you get some more attacks, and then if they interact with any of those guys, you bring back another Liger, or you bring back another Shrieker and keep attacking. But in all situations like that, you still want Shrieker. So
there's a possibility that there's like an aggressive Urgon deck, like I think people were playing like Urgon Fizzy or something that just played a bunch of 1-drops. And that deck probably wants as many Shriekers as it could legally play. So the fact that this card, even if it's just like worse Shriekers, number 4, 5, and 6, that might just be good enough to make it into those decks. I don't know if
Yeah,
those decks are good, but like something like basically the Jamal deck, but with like the black core instead of the blue one.
yeah. I think what you see is the reason why this card might see play is because I think what you're seeing going forward is that the effect of Liam on the meta and the pull it has is every deck sort of has to either be a Liam deck or suit up something similar to Collins, Jamal, um, solo deck, where you play a lot of low curve cards and just sort of affect your opponent's board with the rest of your spells. And then you just play an elephant, and then now because you flooded the board with your low cost cards, you're able to actually like have a kill turn, and now the pressure's on your opponent to actually affect your board. But because they're aggressive deck,
Yeah.
they can't. Or in a mirror match, they have to play a lot of cards to do that. So I think that's like where you might see a card like this being played is either a very aggressive strategy or a deck that tries to limit the aggressive strategy in the same way that the Liam solo deck does.
Yeah, I agree with that.